It's hot enough out here today that I could throw eggs on the asphalt driveway and have them cooked in 5 minutes. Whew, yeah, it's that hot outside. Anyway, today's video is going to be lubricating a car chassis with a key keeper. And I have my own revolutionary, new age approach to do it. I take a tube of Mystique multi-purpose grease and I just come over to the front of my car like so, and I just roll it under the car and wait. If everything goes like it should, grease is going to go everywhere it needs to go. If only in reality that worked. Unfortunately, it doesn't. So I'm going to have to take my own grease gun, which is a Lincoln something, I forget what kind of model it is. And I'm going to go under the front of my car and grease everything that has a zerk on it. Like the ball joints, the tie rod end. Once you have got your safety equipment, you're ready to proceed. I can't stress enough the use of proper safety equipment and taking your time to do this. Never use a jack as a lifting device when you get under the car. If you're going to get under a car, always use good, sturdy, quality-made jack stands. Because the last thing you want to have happen to you is your car falling on you. Anyway, now that you have all your safety equipment and some nitrile gloves, because grease guns are messy objects, as any seasoned mechanic knows, I'm going to set my parking brake so when I jack up the front of the car, it doesn't decide to go for a trip, since this is a front-wheel drive Pontiac, and fall off the jack. I've had that happen once on my truck, and I ruined the original jack that came with the truck. And now that you're under your car, it is a good time to start looking around to see what is serviceable. And the first thing that I see is that I'm going to need a new CV shaft soon, because that boot's split. It's probably the original CV shaft of the car. I also noticed, after looking around a little bit, that my ball joints have no grease zerks on them, so they're not a serviceable part. So next thing I'm going to do is try to get you a shot of the ball joint so you can see what I'm talking about. Yeah, let's see. Can I get the iPhone in there? Yeah, maybe. Can't, well, yeah, there's the bottom of the ball joint. And you can see there's no grease zerk on it, so I can't service it. However, I'm going to get in the car now. I'm going to turn the wheels out so I can look at the tie rod ends. Okay, I just turned my wheel out, and if I take the iPhone and bring it back in here, you can see that my tie rod end has a grease zerk on it, but yet it's also covered in grease and dirt, so we're going to get my little wire brush out of my toolbox and clean that grease zerk off. Armed with my wire brush, I'm going to go in there and clean the tie rod end's grease zerk off so I can put some grease on the little tie rod end. And if I wasn't such a lazy cuss, I'd take the tire off, but I've only been outside like 10 minutes and haven't really done much, and I'm already sweating buckets, so I am not taking the tire off this car today. So, let's see. How is the best way to come in here and do this? Just like this. Get the front and back side so you get all the grease and dirt off the little tie rod end. You can come in with a shop towel or your fingers and clean it the rest of the way off. And now you're ready for your grease gun. So we're now under the car. You can see the fitting for the tie rod end. You can also inspect your tie rod end now, see if the boot is torn. My boot looks okay, maybe a little bit dry rotted. But what we're going to do is we're going to take our grease hose off the gun, and we're just going to stick it on real good to the tie rod end fitting. Get the sun out of there. And then we're just going to slowly pump some grease. Well, I'm going to have two hands. Anyway, you're going to pump grease into the tie rod fitting until the boot swells just ever so slightly, and then you're done. Because when that boot starts swelling, the fitting has now been packed with grease, and you can move on to the next tie rod fitting on the other side of the car. It took me about maybe 3 strokes with the grease gun, 3 small strokes, to get the rubber fitting to start to swell. So you know you're getting grease not only in the fitting, but it is also now packed with grease. So what you're going to do now, get the sun out of there, is you're going to pull off the grease gun, and in greasing the fitting, when you've noticed that the rubber housing has started to swell on the tie rod, you pull off this part of the grease gun. And I'm going to leave the grease on top of the grease zerk because in my opinion it does two things. One, it keeps the water out from rusting inside the grease zerk, and then you've got to replace your zerk. And it keeps the dust and dirt out of there so it doesn't clog it up and make it impossible to put grease in the tie rod fitting. So now we're going to move on to the other side of the car. Okay, there's the tie rod grease fitting, and my tie rod boot is dry rotting, which means it's getting ready to be replaced, but not quite. They're only like, depending on the kind of car you have, they're only $10 to $20, so it doesn't hurt to fix them up. I don't think this car has ever had tie rod ends put on it. It had a new sway bar kit put on the rear, I believe. And look what I just found. I just found a grease zerk on my ball joint. Which means that this grease zerk, this ball joint, is serviceable. We can put grease in this ball joint. I'll have to closer inspect my other ball joint and see if it has a grease zerk, because I don't see one from the back and I sure don't see one from the front. So it may not even have one on there, but we'll definitely grease this one when we do our tie rod grease. After careful examination, we found this ball joint's grease zerk, so we just had the tire turned the wrong way. So now what we're going to do is we're going to come in and clean all that old grease and dirt off, and then I'm going to put some new grease in that ball joint, and it'll be ready to go for a good and long time. Okay. You can see we've got the ball joint greased. You can see the little vent hole where the old grease started to come out. If you're doing this, remember to wear safety glasses along with taking every other safety precautions, you know, jack stands, creeper, all that stuff, and putting the car's parking brake on. I was cleaning this grease zerk and I had some grease fly back toward my face, but fortunately I'm wearing safety glasses, so no dirt or oil or anything else is going to get into my eyes today. Anyway, that grease zerk is cleaned off, so we're ready to get the grease gun, which is on the picnic table, and we're going to pump some grease into the grease zerk. It took about 5 pumps with the grease gun before all that stuff started spewing out of the little vent hole in the ball joint. But that is some old, nasty, stinky grease I just got out of that ball joint. It's probably 17, well, no. This car's a 97, so 2007 would have been 10 years, so 07 to 2011 is 4, so that's a 14-year-old ball joint grease you guys are looking at right there. Anyway, that's one reason why I wear nitrile gloves, because I don't like that stinky crap on my hands. Because the only soap that I found that'll take that stuff off is Dial, and I don't happen to have Dial soap on hand right now, so rubber gloves. Anyway, we've done the front end greasing of my 97 Pontiac, so we're going to take this car down, move it, and go get the truck, detach it from the trailer, go get the truck, and grease the front end of the truck, you know, the steering system, the ball joints, the tie rods, all the good stuff. This is helpful information for any car, because on most front-wheel drive cars, you only have a couple grease zerk locations. Tie rod ends, if they're serviceable, and then the ball joints. Now, as with me, you want to take a careful time, do a thorough examination of the front end of your car. Because when you do that, you can find anything from alignment problems, you know, if the front wheels toe, cast, or camber, or you can find other problems like you need a CV shaft like I did on my driver's side. I inspected my passenger side and I couldn't really see anything, but I'll take another closer examination at it because I did it just passing by. But yeah, I'm going to get the truck over here now. The truck's over there hooked up to the trailer. I'm going to get that over here and I'm going to grease the front end of that truck. And you can see that I've got a lot more greasing to do because that truck uses a honest-to-goodness steering box system.